And we are back, episode 183 here of Drew's Sports Crew on this here Monday night. Myself, Drew Skyberg, bringing you the news in the Wisconsin sports world. And look, it was not a great week for the Brewers, but it was, I'd say the same for the Packers. I don't even know how you'd want to compare the two, but look, we'll get into it here. The Packers frustrating loss on Friday. The Brewers then tried to follow suit and had two frustrating losses there this weekend. So we'll talk about those games here on the show, and we'll run through the Packers. I'm not gonna again regurgitate maybe everything we saw throughout the game, but I want to focus on some key points rather, as you all watched. I'll go through announcements here. We're at that point of the year, no more baseball games during the Immaculate Gritter draft. We got football, we got basketball coming in. There's too much content, so I don't want to overwhelm you all with that. So at Drew Sports Crew, though, you can find content: Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube, you name it. You can find Wisconsin sports content. You can find some rankings and so on. I check that out at Drew Sports Crew. But let's get in the show here. Let's get in right away. Talk about the game for the Packers. This was already Friday. I know I'm later because I wanted to keep baseball. We're in this weird month that I always talk about every year where, baseball is going on with football. Basketball is going to be starting up. How do you balance it if you're a Wisconsin sports fan? I don't know. But we manage every year. But look, this game, Packers ended up losing by 5, which was frustrating, as this definitely was a winnable game. They came out hot right away. That was the theme. The defense did. Jeff Hafley's defense, it was turnovers. They were getting turnovers. They're making plays, getting stops. We saw Hurts throw 2 picks. So that right away had that one right from the get-go, and then that one where Jerry tried to take it out. Unfortunately, didn't make it justified, but we saw the defense get figured out, which you kind of thought. I talked about this defense being a strong suit of the team. They, if you look at the fantasy wise, like they got turnovers, they got sacks. This was kind of what I thought in terms of making plays. I didn't think, and this is kind of where I stood wrong. I didn't think 34 points they'd give up week 1. I talked about the run defense, some of my fears there with how they have the linebackers placed, and how they're running to the ball and so on. And I think, when you face Saquon Barkley, I think that can be exploited. And 24 attempts, I think they saw the same thing. And this team ran the ball 38 times, out of like 72 plays or so, which is a pretty heavy run in a high scoring affair too. So I personally think that was game plan oriented, just kind of how this has been seen. And what do you think the Colts are going to do next week when they play as well? They have Anthony Richardson, a very mobile quarterback, along with Jonathan Taylor, right? We know JT. So it's going to be a tough test next week too. I'm not going to get ahead of myself here on this preview, but on a preview on that. But the point is, they ran the ball very well. You all saw that. And then also some of the schematic plays too. A lot of motion they had. Really set up some of the receivers. So that's where A.J. Brown, 5 receptions only, but 119 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Smith, 7 for 84. This was a very good Eagles offense. Kellen Moore being added to the mix. This was an impressive showing for them still, too. I'm not going to just say it was Hafley's fault, the defense's fault. This was a good revamped Eagles offense. I was very impressed with what I saw from them. It was better than I expected, I'd say. Let's talk about Love. Played fine. How I'd throw it out there is he didn't lose you the game, but he certainly went to, if they win the game, they won. It's not like they won in spite of him, but he played good enough to win. But at the same time, like if he won, it wasn't like he won the game for you. That's where I'm going with that. That's what I saw from Love. I think there was some rust early. I do. I think it really got shook off after that first quarter. I think after that, a lot better at some points. But then that last drive, obviously that injury, thank goodness he's He's better than what was expected per results and sources and so on. 3 to 6 weeks, not ideal. They're not going to put him on the IR. It sounds like so. They're really optimistic about this. Is what I've read, and that's where the question is. Okay, Malik Willis, he came in and didn't have nice last two plays, considering he didn't get the throw off on the last one. But look, with Willis, my concern right away is he hasn't been here that long. This playbook with LaFleur, we know that there's a lot of it's a very advanced playbook, and at the NFL level, every playbook's advanced, but there's a lot of different plays and so on. And I'm wondering, obviously Willis has a connection there, Tennessee, but LaFleur wasn't there at the same time Willis was there, so that's the other thing to mention. Like, when LaFleur was there, it was more Ryan Tannehill, and that's where Tannehill has a connection. But they're not. There was rumors that they're bringing someone in. Sounds like they're not going to be. They're going with Malik Willis. It sounds like moving forward. There was question if Sean Clifford was going to be the guy, just with having more experience in this offense, which definitely makes sense. And I wonder if Clifford's going to be available. If things aren't going right, do they go to Clifford? Probably. I'm just intrigued to see kind of what kind of leash Willis has in the game. So because is it going to be like first couple drives, and then they're going to pull him? Use my baseball terms here, but we saw Pat Murphy had a short leash on Freddie Peralta, pulled him and cost him a game a little bit. But really, are they going to stick with their starter? Are they going to bring in a reliever? We'll see next week against the Colts on that. I think the run game for the Packers, I think that was something that Jacobs, right, it's a little inflated, his stats are. I say that in respects to his 32-yard run, which kind of bumped up his yards per carry. I know that cherry picking stats like that isn't always fun, but take that out. We're looking at 16 for 52, like a little over 3 yards per carry. He was fine. I'd say with love too. It was not the greatest showing. You wanted more from Jacobs, but oh well. Jane Reed was obviously the most impressive guy on the offense. He's explosive. I talked about Journey Million last week on the show. Talked about bets week 1. I said I'd take Jaden Reed touchdown. He didn't just get one; he got 2. So was a good week for me on that. On that note, he had 4 receptions for 138 yards, had a 33-yard run as well. That was the on the ground touchdown. It was the targets were well spread out as expected. I really liked how Tucker Kraft got involved. I didn't know with Musgrave obviously back and healthy, and Kraft got two receptions, 37 yards, had a 29-yard play. It was good to see. Dobbs 4 for 50 always just sneaks in there. The Dontavian Wicks Truthers, it was a bad day for them. He had nothing, 0 reception, 0 yard. One of those days. Him and Bo Melton too. Not as many truthers for him though. But no, it was good to see the Christian Watson touchdown. Always refreshing to see him get targeted in the end zone. Love to see that, and I was good to see that. That's how I would summarize kind of the offense was. It was what we expected, a well-diversified mix. You had Jacobs lead the way. Wilson got in there a bit. We'll see, hopefully, Lloyd next weekend, and Marshawn Lloyd. He should be good to go at home. Hopefully, we can see him in, and this team might need to run the ball more. We'll see kind of with Willis or whatever the plan is. Quay Walker, I talked about. He was one of the other bets I was taking. It was tackles. It was tackles plus assists, and he had another big game tackle-wise. Point was he was emphasized a lot, and he kind of took over the reins, and with Campbell, of course, out and played well. I like Sean Nixon. I think Nixon played well. I think he played up, had a big sack, plays like that. He really had a good knack for getting to the ball. I think that was a takeaway with him. McKinney had an interception in his debut, right? That was a big one there, and it's good to see. Gary had a sack. The usual guys came in. So, but the defense, again, kind of where we saw problems was the run plays especially. You had a couple big plays in there you'll live with, but you want to prevent obviously with guys like A.J. Brown, which again, all pro receivers, kind of tough here, but I think the focus next week is going to be honing on the run, especially with again Taylor and Richardson. Um, so let's get into that preview a little bit. Packers Colts at Lambeau. I'm intrigued to see. I haven't found any like what the odds are on that game or like who's favorites. Just with the Packer quarterback situation, there's been a lot of hesitancy of the books and getting stuff out on that. But hopefully the Packers, right? Hopefully they can pull out a win. Colts lost a close game to the Texans this past week. Jared's a Colts fan on Journey Million. Of course, upset. I took the Texans to win it in our team pick'em challenge, so it's good for me. But looking at it, 2-1 teams battling it out. Again, Lloyd should be back. Hopefully that can make a difference. Just more depth running the ball. And Lloyd also making his Packer debut. That's the exciting part too. But I don't know what it's going to be with Willis. I don't know if they're going to simplify it, make it more of a dink and dunk offense. I feel like that's kind of what's going to have to happen though. Like get Reed and Watson, get them in motion, get those short plays, maybe some pick plays, and just get some tempo throws going for him. I can't expect him to go far, but I'm just afraid the Colts are going to stack the box, and that's going to be it because we could see that. We saw Daniel Jones and the Vikings, not to just go around the NFL, but when that's what the Vikings did, and Daniel Jones got smoked. I mean, the numbers were brutal. He threw a pick six. He threw right to the guy. I just am concerned that it might be easier to shut down Willis than we think, and maybe that's just me being a little too optimistic. But hopefully, I'm a game and they're going to be at home and it has everything right for hopefully a Packer win. And I mean the most of that. Sorry, there's some internet issues there, but we'll see. And that's how we'll wrap up this week one recap and a brief week two preview. We'll get into it more next week once that game, again, it's on at noon in Green Bay. So we'll talk about the Brewers here before we wrap up the show. Look, there was a lot of momentum Labor Day, right? We saw a packed crowd last Monday. Brewers got the win. I talked about that on the show. I won't double dip on these things, but basically from then though, they've only won one of their last 5 games. This is one of the worst streaks of the year, a 1-4 last 5 game streak for the Brewers. I know people are going crazy. This season's over, right? It's crazy, the dynamic of how good this team has consistently been this year, where people are like, it's over. They almost lost 4 in a row, and that was it. They fortunately won that game Saturday with Freddie Peralta's soccer jersey day. But then Sunday, you have Jackson Chourio bobblehead, one of the most hyped up bobblehead days I've seen for the Brewers, maybe in my lifetime. I'm going back 20 years here, 21 years. A Chourio bobblehead, a treat. People were there early. Had some friends there at 10:30 in the morning for that bobblehead. I unfortunately was not there, but look, I saw it's a nice bobblehead. It really is. It's a really nice giveaway they were able to do to attract people to the game over NFL Sunday, right? I opted for some football, but look, this past week it was blunders, mistakes. Freddie Peralta on Sunday didn't have his best stuff, so I understand the rationale there. 4 2/3 he wins. Taking him out, just base runners every inning. Leadoff guy gets on. Classic Freddie Peralta problems, right? Can't get the leadoff guy out and creates a jam and gets out of it, or gives up a run, or gives a home run first pitch. We saw that as well. But main problem here, gets into this jam, 4 2/3. We saw Pat Murphy do the first. I won't say first. He's had done a couple times, but it felt a little Craig Counsell-ish. Obviously, we want to play matchups, lefty-lefty. Hobie Milner's job is to get left-handed hitters out. That's what he's done all year, or attempted. He's had a weird year, Milner. So his ERA was right around 2 for a good chunk of the year, but we know how it is with lefty specialist relievers is when you get only an out or two, one run can really hit the ERA, but when you give up 3 runs, that can do a whole thing to your ERA. And we saw with Milner, who came into the game with an ERA right around 5. Obviously, these were inherited runners other than the guy who was up. But Sam Hilliard, he gives a home run. Yeah, as you all saw, a go-ahead 3-run home run, and that was it. The bats really went flat too. I mean, the last game, I can't really say more than that. I was kind of disappointed with how the offense performed in that series against the Rockies. When you host them, you got to score. You got to score more than that. You can't just put up a run. But that was a shocking series to lose. I don't know. Overall, though, with Milner ERA now over 5.03. I get the move, but trying to play matchups got too cute with the matchups. That's what happened. And when you got Freddie Peralta, who's been now in the league for 6-7 years, you got to go with the manager, right? But obviously, hindsight's 2020. So me saying this now, I don't know. I just playoff time, you see something like this. We've seen managers get too cute. For baseball fans, Robbie Ray, right, a starter for the Mariners, comes in 2021, I believe it was 2022 against the Astros. They're bringing a starter to close the game. Get like one of the last outs. He gets a walk-off home run. It's things like that. Like, kind of get what you want to do, but these are still human beings at the end of the day. So, um, just something I thought about while watching that this weekend series was we want to be smart in the postseason, but we don't want to just reinvent the wheel, right? So I felt like that's something we've seen. Tobias pitched phenomenal this series. All the strikeouts, Rockies strikeout on the road, and that's what we saw. Myers had 11 strikeouts, was it? It was very good. His stuff looked good too. So it's not like Rockies automatically strike out double digits, but sometimes it feels like that. But it's good to see Myers on Saturday. That was a treat. But otherwise, there's not a whole lot this week. Some frustrating losses in there with St. Louis Tuesday and Wednesday, especially Wednesday. That was one you're scratching your head. But look, this week ahead, who doesn't love a West Coast road trip? We have the last one of the year, fortunately. 6 games on the slate. 8:45, 8:45, and 8:45 Tuesday through Thursday. That is in San Francisco to face the Giants. And then a weekend series, 8:40, 7:10, and 3:10. And that is against the Diamondbacks. So that'll be fun. First time facing them this year. All the games are on Bally. Looks like no primetime games. Oh, just Bally. That's fine. Works for me. The next week, though, we have the Phillies and Diamondbacks. I'll get into that next week when we go through this show. But the next, there's a 10-game stretch in there where you are facing teams that are going to win 88 plus games. So just keep that in mind. Something for the Brewers. The magic number was around 10. It might be. I don't know how the Cubs did tonight. That's why I'm hesitant. It might be 9 or 10. But point is, I'm hoping I'm going to a game next week. I'm hoping I can see them clinch it then. That's the goal, but we'll see. Obviously, if they clinch it sooner, that's fine. It's a combination of Brewers wins and Cubs losses, so it's an and there. So if the Brewers win and the Cubs lose, that's two games right there. 2 of the 10 to get that magic number to 0. So that is exciting, and hoping for a good postseason run. We'll get there. We'll talk about that when we get there. But otherwise, that's all I got here in this episode. I hope you all have a great week. And then remember, at Drew Sports Crew for all of your content. That'll wrap it here. Thank you all for listening to another episode of Drew Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.